Welcome, everybody. We are going to start our very first video of the year reviewing solving linear equations following your very first handout, 1.A notes. Few refreshers on solving linear equations. The very first thing you're going to want to do is use the distributive property. This is if you have parentheses with a value that's outside of it. Once we've gone ahead and taken care of parentheses, we're going to combine like terms if necessary. So if we have x plus 7, these two right here are like terms because they're both x's. They both have a 1 in front. So 1 plus 1 is 2. That's 2x plus 7. Step 3, move our variables to one side of the equal sign. We're using opposite operations. And then use inverse operations to get the variable by itself. Remember, the opposite of adding is subtracting, and vice versa. And then the opposite of multiplying is dividing, and vice versa. There's more that we'll get to, but for right now, these are the operations we're pretty much going to stick with. So let's try this. Our very first one, we have no parentheses. We have no like terms on the same side. The only thing we have to do to get this variable x alone is move the 3. So to move the 3 on the other side, the opposite of adding 3 is subtracting 3. We bring our x down. 3 minus 3 is 0. Negative 5 minus 3 more is negative 8. Always want to encourage you to check your work to make sure that everything's going to work out. If we're checking our work, we're taking this equation that we started with, and we said this x is actually negative 8. So we're going to plug in negative 8 there. Negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5, and negative 5 is equal to negative 5. Letter B. We don't have any parentheses. We don't have any like terms on the same side. The only thing we need to do to get rid of the x right here is to move the 11. Now we know that this says plus x, but in front of the 11 is a negative. We always want to do opposite. So the opposite of a negative 11 is a positive 11. That means we're adding 11 to each side. Negative 11 plus 11 is 0. So we're left with x. Sorry about that. Equals, and then negative 14 plus 11 is negative 3. Again, if we want to do the check, we have negative 11 plus x is equal to negative 14. We're saying that x is equal to negative 3, so we would plug that in. Negative 11 plus negative 3 is negative 14. Negative 14 equals negative 14, and that's a check. Letter C. We have no parentheses. We have no like terms on either side. So we are doing opposite operations at this point. Right now we have 5 times x. Remember, when they're next to each other like this, that means it's multiplication. The opposite of multiplying by 5 is dividing by 5 on both sides. 5 divided by 5 is 1x. You can write the 1, but you don't have to. Equals, and then 20 divided by 5 is 4. Again, if we're going to go ahead and do the check just to make sure that we're on the right track, we plug 4 in for x in that original equation. 5 times 4 is 20. Does 20 equal 20? Yes, it does. Letter D. Some of us might get thrown off here by this x over 4. Right now, it kind of looks like a fraction, x fourths, but it's really not. This is actually a division problem. This is x divided by 4. So the opposite of dividing by 4 is multiplying both sides by 4, and it's actually 4 over 1. That makes this 4x over 4, and 4 over 4 reduces to 1. So we have 1x is equal to negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. Again, if you want to do your check just to make sure that you're on the right track, you're plugging negative 12 in for the x in the original equation. Negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3. Negative 3 is equal to negative 3. All right. Now we are getting to some fractions, but remember we talked about how the graphing calculators can help us with this. Right now we have x minus 4/9. The opposite of subtracting is adding, so we're adding 4/9 to each side. We bring down our x. Negative 4/9 plus 4/9 is 0. And then we add fractions. You can either add this in your calculator, or remember to add fractions, you need to have common denominators. I have to multiply the 9 by the 4 to get to 36. Whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. So that's 16 over 36. 17 plus 16 is 33 over 36. All right, letter F. We still don't have any parentheses here, and we don't have any like terms on the same side. So I'm going to start with moving opposite operations. At this point, when you have more than one thing, we do PEMDAS backwards, which I call it SADMEP. So we start with subtracting or adding. Do I have any subtracting or adding with the x? And we do. We're subtracting 5. The opposite of subtracting 5 is adding 5. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Bring down your 2x. Negative 5 plus 5 is 0. 3 plus 5 is 8. Then we look for multiplying and dividing. Okay, 2 times x is what we have. The opposite of multiplying by 2 is dividing by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1x. You don't have to write the 1 in front. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. Now we have x all by itself, and x is equal to 4. Letter G. Again, we're not going to worry about this fraction in front because we can always consider it a division problem. But I'm again going to write here at the bottom, just for us to reference, our PEMDAS backwards. We have no parentheses in letter G, so I don't need to worry about distributing. I don't have any like terms on the same side, so I don't have to worry about that. So we're already at step 3, using opposite operations, starting with subtracting or adding. I right now am subtracting 8 here. So I will start with adding 8 to the other side. Bring down your 1/2 x. Negative 8 plus 8 is 0. Negative 3 plus 8 is 5. Now, yes, that says 1/2, but remember that's also 1 divided by 2. The opposite of dividing by 2 is multiplying by 2 on both sides. So 2 times 1, we have 2x over 2. 5 times 2 is 10, and 2 over 2 simplifies to 1x. So 1x is equal to 10. All right, letter H is getting a little more interesting. We still don't have any parentheses, but if I look over here on the right side, the very first thing I see is that I have 2 x's there. So we can combine those together. So we're not touching that 4x minus 12. I'm not touching the 9. 3x minus 6 x's is negative 3x. So that's our first step. Now I want to combine my x's on the same side of the equal sign. So here's my equal sign if I kind of think of it like a wall. I either want to move the 3x to the left or the 4x to the right. I'm going to choose to move the 3x to the left. This is a minus 3x. The opposite of a minus 3x is to add 3x. 4x plus 3x is 7x minus 12. Keep the 9. Negative 3x plus 3x is 0. Now I'm back to something like what we had for letters F and G. So this looks like letter F actually. Starting down here with backwards operations, subtracting or adding, I'm minusing 12 or subtracting 12. The opposite is to add. We keep our 7x. Negative 12 plus 12 is 0. 9 plus 12 is 21. Multiplying and dividing. The opposite of multiplying x by 7 is dividing by 7 on both sides. 7 over 7 is 1. We don't have to write that with the x. And 21 over 7 is 3. Letter I. This time we do have parentheses, so our very first step then is to distribute. We're going to distribute here. 5 times 2x is 10x. 5 times 2 is 10. Distribute your negative 3. Negative 3 times 4 is negative 12x. Negative 3, that's also a negative 5 there, a minus 5 and a negative 5. So a negative times a negative is a positive 15. And then we drop down that plus 5x. So we did the first step, check. Now we're on step 2. Combining any like terms that we have. So just like the last one that we did in letter H, this right side has x's that we can condense together. So we're not going to touch the left side. We're not going to touch the 15. Negative 12 plus 5 is negative 7x. All right. Now we want to move our x's together. And again, it does not matter if you want to move the 10 over to the right or the negative 7 to the left. I tend to not want negative numbers if I can help it. The opposite of minus 7x is plus 7x. 10 plus 7 is 17x. We're going to keep that plus 10 because we haven't done anything with it yet, equals. We're going to keep that 15. We haven't done anything with it yet. And then negative 7 plus 7 is 0. Now we're back to something similar to letter H. The opposite of adding 10 is subtracting 10. So I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. Keep that 17x. 10 minus 10 is 0. Equals, and then we have 15 minus 10 is 5. Our last step to get x alone, this is 17 times x. The opposite is to divide. 17 divided by 17 is 1. We don't have to write that with the x. And then 5/17. Well, I can't actually divide that, and I can't reduce it. And we always want exact answers unless they specifically ask us for a rounded decimal. So we're going to leave that as x is equal to 5/17. I would love to do one more with you. So we're going to come down to the very bottom left side. We have 3 minus parentheses 2x plus 9 equals 17. So we do have parentheses, and we're like, well, wait a minute, I don't see anything actually in front of there. Well, that minus sign that's in front is really a negative 1. We are distributing a negative 1 to everything inside the parentheses. The 3 is not a part of that. We keep that 3 and bring it down. Negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x. Negative 1 times positive 9 is negative 9. We do have these two like terms on the same side. So we're not touching that negative 2x. 3 minus 9 is negative 6. Now we can do our backwards order of operations, SADMEP. Do we have any subtracting or adding? We do. We have a minus 6, so the opposite of subtracting 6 is to add 6. to both sides. We have negative 2x, negative 6 plus 6 is 0, and 17 plus 6 is 23. Then we look for multiplying and dividing. The opposite of multiplying the x by negative 2 is to divide both sides by negative 2. A negative divided by a negative is a positive 1x. And then negative 23 divided by 2, I can't divide that evenly and I cannot reduce it, so that's just going to stay as negative 23 halves for an exact answer. This is where we're going to stop today. I know there's 2 more problems. Don't worry about those for right now. Remember to upload this in a Google Classroom when you finish, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.